Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're going to continue our rankings episodes. Getting to the running backs this week. We got 2 episodes of running backs. I think we'll go top 20 today, and then Thursday we'll go 21 through 40. But we've even ranked them further than that, so we'll probably list them off after that. After the 40th, we'll get you probably we go through 60, 70. Yeah. We're really going deep on the running back rankings this time, but
who knows? That might be a third one.
You never,
be good to have.
It wouldn't be a bad thing to do that. But we're going to get some rankings episodes because you know what? It's a little early, but it is draft time for some people. As we have a draft this coming weekend, which is crazy. Sunday night already. Man, I know that one's early. Most people don't draft this early, but people are. So you have to be prepared, and our ranks will change before probably the season starts. There's no way they stay the same, but we'll do rankings update episodes, before the season. Maybe if we have some like movers, people moving up and down, because who knows? There's still so many things to. Yeah,
there's a lot of things that are really shaking out even currently. So
a lot of them with the running back we'll get into here. Before we get into that, make sure you check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet or Instagram, Fantasy Football Prophet. Our website's fantasyfootballprophet.com. You can send us email, fantasyfootballprophet@gmail.com. We've been getting some questions in every week on pretty much all those different formats and places, which tomorrow we'll have another mini mailbag episode. Keep doing those as long as questions are coming in. We'll answer them all. And we had some ones some good questions that came into us that just took us. Man, we were really thinking about those and made me... We'll get into that tomorrow, but some good questions we'll get into these people. We also, some more self-promotion here for us. We have a listeners league we started up, which we had some sign-ups going on Instagram, but you can sign up anywhere. Basically, we're going to create some listener leagues that we'll be a part of. At least have me or Jeff probably in each one. I don't know exactly how we're going to do it, which leagues we'll in, but we'll be in every league. I think right now we have enough for 3 leagues. So if you're interested in that, just send us a message somewhere, and we're going to put those together. It'd be something fun to do, especially if you're looking for leagues that'll be active with good people in it. Not always easy to find. We'll have a league for you. So just send us a message. We'll get you on the list and get you in one of our leagues. How about we get some news before the actual rankings episode? Because there's so much stuff going on. Nothing too major, but there's always just random little tidbits of news that come out. I'm going to start off, since this is a running back episode. Tim Hightower took the first rep at running back today. Does that mean anything to you? Maybe. It's just another thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one more mark, like black mark again. That situation is just turning toxic.
But you did hear how John Lynch came out this weekend and said that Hyde looks great or something, and Shanahan did too. But I think they might be just trying to save face, and if they need to trade him, have some value.
I don't know.
Man, we'll talk about it more when we get Hyde. I don't know what to think. With that, Eric Ebron left Saturday's practice with a hamstring injury. Does that shock you?
No.
It's disappointment. It's very disappointing. Come on.
Right. Every time you give the guy a little bit of a boost in the rankings,
is that what it's going to be with him? That's the worry with Ebron. It is, and it's already starting. Yeah. Jay Ajayi left practice today with a possible concussion, maybe. I don't know if it was. Maybe they just might be cautious early on. No reason to take a chance. We are like 6 weeks till actual season starts, so it shouldn't matter. But you don't know with concussions.
Exactly. Every time they just say concussion, it just freaks me out now.
Some have been lingering, so it's just something to watch. Just, hopefully he's back practicing by next week at their latest. Or whatever.
I'm sure they'll take him along really slowly. There's no reason to rush him back.
A lot of good Duke Johnson hype out there. I don't know if you've seen all this.
For like 3 straight years.
Now he's talking about him being a slot receiver and then trying to use him as much as possible, which is all good. But, is he going to be more than Tavon Austin ever? That kind of thing. It feels like that's where he's kind of
be lucky. And not to mention, you're saying slot receiver on the Browns, right? So, who is he beating out, really? We all know he can catch the ball.
It's not...
It means nothing for me fantasy-wise.
Fantasy-wise, it's just not...
Not yet. I would have to see that.
There's nothing there. There's other random news. Latavius Murray's no timetable for his return. Dalvin Cook moves up maybe a little bit. Andrew Luck news, there's still people are starting to wonder, there's not like any guarantee that he's coming out and playing week 1. So
I'm actually one of those people starting to worry about him.
Yeah.
You haven't seen him throw yet. I mean, especially with, obviously the other top tier quarterbacks have jumped over him. You start wondering, do you wait on him? Is he worth taking? I mean, if you have to pay a premium on him still.
Some news about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield that when Doug Martin comes back, he's not guaranteed the starting job, which he's not. Of course he's not. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
They're going somebody. They have to earn it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. And there's also then more news that they could use a committee with Rodgers and then the rookie Jeremy McNichols, Charles Sims. Maybe it's just something to stay away from.
Maybe, but
Martin still. If you can get Martin for cheap late, we'll talk. Probably not about Martin today.
Yeah,
he's not going to be on this episode, but we'll talk about him Thursday and what we think about him. And it's just.
I mean, let's be honest. Though, are you going to come out right now and be like, as soon as this suspension is up, he's going to get his starting spot and just alienate Jacquizz Rodgers and all the other young guys in that backfield?
Peter King says that the Broncos want to use Jamal Charles basically 8 to 10 touches a game. I can see that. Doesn't make me like his fantasy prospects that much, but he's been good in limited work before.
Yeah. The limited work doesn't. At least saying that this early makes me believe he's healthy enough and dynamic enough where he can actually be helpful in those 10 plays. Otherwise, why would you use him? No, I mean,
Devontae Booker's now looks out for the season.
Yeah.
So that we were worried about that 3 person. Now it's Anderson and Charles now.
C.J. Anderson, it's interesting. And Jamal Charles is always going to be a scary guy looming there, but I think that kind of completely clears the path for C.J. Anderson.
Jonathan Stewart says that Christian McCaffrey is pretty unstoppable running routes out of the backfield. He says basically that no one in the league is going to be able to cover him one-on-one.
I hope he's right.
So we'll talk about McCaffrey today.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure he makes our top 20. Other than that, we got Kenneth Dixon. He's going to be out for the season to another running back, so that kind of changes up. We were hyping. You were starting to hype Woodhead a little bit as one of these guys no one's talking about. That ended. Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, everyone's talking.
So
I guess we're going to have to jump on the West bandwagon or something if we want to be different.
It's Terrence West, Danny Woodhead, and Terrence West is just, he's okay, but he's just this boring player. And I know we'll talk about Woodhead next week. I'm not even sure. We'll probably talk about West. He's going to be there close to that top 40-ish range. He should be probably 30 to 40. I don't have it all yet. But, yeah, that's kind of the news. Anything more you've seen, Joe? That's pretty much... it's just all people predicting people are going to do something, or this guy is amazing.
A lot more hype stuff than legitimate, injury information.
There really isn't much. Nothing major yet. So let's get into the ranks. Number 1, David Johnson. Ranks number 1 for you. Ranks number 1 for me.
Oh, really? He
Yes.
jumped over Bell finally for you, huh?
And it basically comes down, it's probably nothing major, but Bell, the holdout currently.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously hasn't signed the tender for the franchise tag. He doesn't have to, so he doesn't have to be there. It's really what it is. He's not really holding out because they can't actually negotiate a long-term deal anyway right now. After that deadline pass, he can only sign the tender. He can't get a long-term deal, so there's nothing to hold out for. That's the only deal. But he's just going to take his time. I just don't know what that means. Not getting reps in practice shouldn't matter for Bell, but it's just one reason why if you were torn on these two, it's something to make you say, okay, I'll take David Johnson instead. Just because.
Exactly.
That's it. It's just something to give you a reason to pick one over the other.
Right, exactly.
That's all it is.
Those two are going to be incredibly close. You could make a case for either one of them, and I would have no issue with it.
With David Johnson, I mean, I can almost think that he is the only running back I can think of that you don't have something negative to say. What do you have negative? There's nothing about David Johnson. Everybody else on this list, you can say one thing. Bell, holdout. Zeke, suspension, whatever. McCoy, injury prone, old at this point. Melvin Gordon, yards per carry. Like, you can go down this list, and there's something on everybody except David Johnson. And he's going to be good.
Yeah. I mean, really, as long as the injury bug doesn't bite him, he should be dominant.
Can we come up with a thing to worry about David Johnson with? Carson Palmer's old, and if he gets hurt and he can't play,
maybe they can load up the box now since their wide receivers haven't shown it last year. But
if John Brown can't do anything, Fitzgerald falls off a cliff. That's about it.
Yeah.
But
that almost injury last year looked pretty gruesome for an almost injury. Like, there's really not a whole lot you can say about
it's tough to see a scenario other than injury that David Johnson doesn't finish. I mean, he'll finish top 5 running back. That's all you need. He's probably gonna be number 1 or 2, but he's at minimum he's gonna be top 5.
Oh, especially when they're talking about all of the carries they want to get him, all of the receptions. if they really do follow through with that, this guy is going to be the biggest difference maker in fantasy once again. And he was last year too. So
our number 2 is Le'Veon Bell. And he's right there for me with Johnson, skill-wise, talent-wise, all that. It's just, we'll see. He hasn't finished many seasons. That's kind of an issue. Injuries have kind of plagued him a little bit, haven't they? Like, he doesn't finish the season very often, like a full season. So,
yeah, a little bit. I mean, taking into account he missed some time for suspension.
There's a reason why, like, for some reason he doesn't finish full seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, there for one reason or another. Maybe this year's he finishes all 16, but maybe not. Maybe this holdout thing. You never know what could happen. If I'm sure he's getting ready in the right way, in his own way. We would think. I mean, he's an NFL player. He wants a big contract. He should be getting ready in the right way, but you never know. I mean, you don't know. He's not with the team.
And you don't really have to hype up Bell, but just to show how dominant he was in only 12 games last year, he had 260 rushing attempts for over 1,200 yards, 7 TDs, and then he had 75 receptions as well for over 600 yards and another 2 TDs. And that was in 12 games. I mean, it was mind-blowing how good he was.
It really is. And
now, hold on, I did hear that, though, when he actually wants to be paid as a number 1 running back and a number 2 wide receiver put together. That is first of all, way to go. That's a ballsy move.
It is, but it doesn't work in today's NFL.
No.
Running backs, they just don't make that They don't. It doesn't happen anymore.
It just cracked me up when I heard that.
Yeah,
I was like, way to go. At least go for it. Might as well.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Running backs just don't get those kind of deals. And I can't see the Steelers of all teams. They feel like more of a Patriots type, organization that's not going to go crazy with something like that. Which you can plug in a lot of running backs. Yeah, I know Bell's great, but you can still plug in you can get a good running back if you have a good offense going. But who knows? Next year, maybe I think they're waiting with Roethlisberger too, and if he retires, it could be a different dynamic next year. So.
It could. Well, they'll need him more though. I mean, how helpful is he to a quarterback?
But he's number 2 for me, for both of us. But he was my number 1 up until recently, and I just had to. They were pretty much 1A and 1B anyway.
Just looking for a reason to edge one out.
Number 3 is Zeke. We have not dropped him with all this potential suspension news. If the suspension comes down, we'd have to basically wait and see how many games it is, and that would help determine if we move him down or if we don't. We've kind of talked about that a couple weeks ago in the episode. If it's a 1-2 game suspension, we're definitely not dropping him. 3, start to think maybe a little bit more, but probably not. 4, we have to start talking about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And as of right now, he's our number 3. And, we thought he could have the he could be the most reliable running back, almost more than Bell.
Yeah, if he was going to play.
If we knew everything was going on, but he's going to be great too. The offensive line, I don't know if they'll be quite as good. They'll still be really good. They don't have to be as good as last year for him to have a very good season. I just don't see any reason other than suspension why he won't be a top guy. That's why these 3 are the top.
Yeah, and
it's just
that's why he doesn't move down that far either. We have mentioned it before, but once you get to that point, that tier definitely falls off.
Yep.
And not to mention, you can make it if it is only 2 or 3. 2 definitely, but if it's 3 games, you can make up for that, by doing a Jacquizz Rodgers late or something like that, where you getting him back is still worth the amount of points you're going to gain on everyone else. So you would be much stronger of a team moving forward after that 3-game suspension. So if you can win a 2 out of 3, using a backup running back or whatever lineup you decide to put in, he's still that much better. And and I love the next guy we're going to talk about, but that's just the way it is. Those top 3 are on a different level.
They just are. It's just a completely different level. There's no way around. Everyone. We're not breaking ground here. Everyone has them as the top 3. They're pretty much in this order for the most part as of right now because of everything going on. These are the top 3 almost in everybody's ranks. So we're not anything special here. But number 4 is LaShawn McCoy, who's typically the number 4 in most lists. He is, I think, the consensus number 4 yet. We did have some interesting Instagram post comment reaction to a little Gordon versus McCoy. I wanted to see what their thoughts are. It kind of is all over the board. People basically, we'll just talk about both of these guys, McCoy and Gordon. Gordon's our 5th, and he's not far off from McCoy. I don't think in either of our minds, but
no.
The reason we just think McCoy's just a little better yet. Gordon, yards per carry was down last year. I don't know what that means. He had a lot of 1-yard touchdowns that can bring it down. His offensive line wasn't very good, but are they really that much better? That's what I hear a lot of people talking about with Gordon, why Gordon should be ahead of McCoy. Oh, Gordon's offensive line was much worse, so maybe he's better than McCoy. Okay, yeah, even if he's a better running back, if his offensive line's still worse, it's still worse. Like, Buffalo has a pretty good offensive line. They're still going to run the ball well. You can't just make up for that. And so Gordon's younger, yes, maybe he's better, who knows? The yards per carry were much, much different. McCoy's over 5.
Yeah, McCoy, I mean, he had the best, yard per clip he's ever had in his career. And I know one of the biggest knocks against him is the fact that his age is starting to get up there. But you watch him last year, and it did not seem to affect him. I mean, he also set, he was second all-time for his career in TDs, rushing. Yep. I mean, he did a lot of great things last year, and this is a run-first offense. I mean, whether it's him or Tyrod, like, someone's running the ball the majority of the time. Yep. Maybe the only thing that, would it even affect him if Watkins plays an entire season? It would just maybe open up a few more holes. Like, besides for injury, you know what I mean? I don't see this as the year that age is going to get him.
For McCoy, the knock against him is potential injury. People trying to say age. 29, yes, they might start to. I don't really feel like 29 is the downfall year. It's 30, 31. 29, they're still there. They're still good at 29 for the most part. There's not many running backs that completely fall off at 29. And he was really good. I don't see him just completely dropping off. It's injury is the only thing that's going to do that. But Melvin Gordon was hurt last year too. And, I like Mo Gordon a lot. If I'm gonna go with the guy who has done it more often. Gordon was very touchdown reliant last year. Why his numbers were so good.
Yeah, and he really only has 1 year to go off of, right?
And I think he's a really, really good running back. It's just is that line improved enough where he can actually find some holes and not get hit in the backfield every time? That was his problem year 1. So.
Yeah, which. You look at year 1 and he had 0 touchdowns and 184 rush attempts. So, and I realize he had other people around him. So you're wondering, hey, maybe he has a better backup this year. You have a lot more weapons to throw to. Keenan Allen is back, Hunter Henry. We've gone over him many, many times. Yep. So those things could possibly kind of hinder him. But I think there's a lot of room for improvement for this guy, too, hence why I like him so much. Yep. I think his yards can go up. I think his TDs really it's 10, right? And McCoy had 13. Like, there is room even for that to raise a little bit. Yep. I don't know. The sky's the limit for this guy. He looked really, really impressive. And supposedly last year he made a big jump because he was healthy. And that rookie year he was hobbled all year. Yep. I kind of believe that. So if this is what's going to keep going, especially having one more year under your belt, I don't see any reason that he's not going to kind of repeat last year. But once again, McCoy was better than him last year too. I'm not going to make up a reason to downplay McCoy. That's my thing.
And to me, those top 3 are a tier. To me, these 2 are a tier. They are the second tier, and I think it ends there.
I completely agree.
It's weird to have a second tier end at number 5, but to me that's what it is. These 2 are just a step above these next guys who got kind of grouped together almost for a bit here. And they
larger tier coming up.
Which I think that's how it is. I think that's why even in a draft last night, I went and got McCoy as a 5th pick, which in a PPR league, which people don't necessarily agree with. Maybe they think you should go wide receiver there and get because Brown was off the board, so people think you go Julio or you go Odell at that point. But man, running back is really scarce. If you don't, and I had a 5th pick, if you're in the middle of the first round in a 12-team league and you don't get a running back, what are you getting? It's not going to be pretty at number 1 as your running back 1. As I went and got Fournette in the 2nd, that would have been my number 1. Yeah, then I don't even like my 2nd. I'm like, okay, it's decent, but you see, you got to get one.
I like Fournette, but McCoy's the real deal. He guaranteed. And in a PPR even, he did have 50 receptions, and that's nothing to disregard, especially when you're talking about a running back.
But we might be going a little bit against the grain, saying to get McCoy and Gordon over those wide receivers, those top. At least the top 3 consensus receivers, people are saying to get those guys maybe over McCoy and Gordon, but I don't agree. I don't
either. I think because you can make up for it, though.
Yeah. Well, at least I'd go McCoy over them. Maybe, I guess, maybe Antonio Brown over Melvin Gordon. Yeah. That's where I think it goes.
Okay. I can see the Antonio Brown.
But I still go McCoy over Brown. I just do.
I do, too, because I think it's once again, I think it's easier to make up for that wide receiver later than it is for running back.
Yeah, and see, it's nothing to do with talent there. That's where people need to really think about their rosters. We'll get into that in another episode, like roster building. But
and I know people are going to lose their minds. Like, they're going to have a lot of hate for saying that. But I mean, it's true. Like, running back is so difficult. Yeah. Don't put yourself in a hole already. I mean, you might get lucky. Who knows? Something might fall to you. But I'm not going to take that risk because, you see the people the quality players you can get later. Yeah. The majority of them are wide receiver.
Yeah, and that's just, we'll have a whole episode, I think, on that at some point here, just talking about how to construct a roster. Yeah. And this is more than one way to do it, but I think there's a better way to do it, possibly.
Especially this. It's year to year, but this year.
All right, we'll get to number 6 here. Ended up being Devontae Freeman for us. He's my 6th, your 7th. This is the first player we differ on. If you didn't know, we realized the top 5 we were identical on, which we've pretty much been except for a couple guys here or there.
Well, I was going to say, I think I had Zeke higher.
Yeah, we switched those two around. We switched those top 3 slightly. But it's Devontae Freeman ends up as our number 6. And it's, at this point, how do you disagree with how good he's been on a great offense? This is where it gets like, okay, the guys around him are like, okay, there's not a lot of guys who have done it for very long. The funny thing is he's almost done it for longer than them. He has over, maybe not DeMarco coming up, but over the other guys around him, he has.
Yeah,
he's the veteran here in these next tier. If you look at your list,
which is crazy.
Think about it. He's the guy who has the most experience here, except for DeMarco Murray, who's coming up on our list.
Exactly. So he's going into his 4th year.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, he's been the starred primary running back. In both years, he has been very good.
He has the most. It's just crazy to think that Devontae Freeman has the most history behind him here, and he does. And how can you say after those 2 great years that anything's going to go down? The only argument people have, Kyle Shanahan's gone. That's it.
Yeah, and notice the funny thing about that is his numbers didn't change almost at all. Yeah. The only thing that changed was his rushing went down about 40 rush attempts, and he got more yardage. Yeah. He was more efficient with those carries, and he had 11 touchdowns running both of the last 2 years, and he had 3 receiving 2 years ago and then 2 this past season. So really, it doesn't change a whole lot for him. He's kind of a consistent in this offense.
Yeah, and the only people will say Tevin Coleman could take away from him. I don't think Tevin Coleman, what they did last year, I think that's what they're going to do. Coleman has his value differently. It's not going to be a 50-50 workload. I don't think that. It's never going to be quite that, and I think Freeman has the job. And we're talking about a long-term deal with the guy right now.
Yeah.
If you're not going to, in the NFL these days, you're not signing a long-term contract with a running back. If you're not going to use him and he's going to be your main guy. It's just not going to happen.
And it's one of those very rare situations where you can actually play both of those running backs, and I wouldn't even blink an eye at that.
All right, number 7 for us ended up being Jordan Howard. He's your 6th player, my 9th player. Okay. I dropped him just a couple spots. No, I'm not telling you. These, for me, there's 4 guys right here that are very interchangeable, and he's just one of them. He just happens to be below them right now. And, he did it. He's a rookie last year. He doesn't have much behind it, but he did that with a bad offense. So there's the knock on him. He plays in a terrible offense. I don't think they're going to be worse than they were last year. I think they're only going to be better than they were last year. They had Alshon, but he wasn't quite himself. They're going to have Cam Meredith now, another year under his belt. Kevin White possibly, maybe, could be something. We don't know yet, but if he is, Mike Glennon, I think, is a serviceable quarterback. Can at least make defenses respect him. Because he might not go crazy and feel like, put up these huge numbers, but I feel like he's good enough to make people respect it, and if they make a mistake, he'll make them pay for it. So they're not going to completely be able to load the box up against Howard. And, they pretty much could last year, and he still did well, so why?
Yeah, I guess that's whoever has that argument of, he's on a bad team, or, hey, he's flash in the pan, he had 1 year. Tell me what is really different with that team, and tell me how he played 15 games, right? And the first 3, he really wasn't even the starter. And he still had 1,300 yards. And on those 1,300 yards, he only has 6 TDs. So he has the chance to raise that point very, very quickly, especially if he gets off to a hot start. Because those first 3 games, they're almost a wash. You really don't even count him in. I think he didn't even play week 1 and then 2 and 3. I think it was still Langford.
Yeah, if people disagree with it, okay, who behind him are you going to put ahead of him that has a track record even more than Jordan Howard?
No.
Like that, it's not there.
No, the opportunity is just point blank. He's going to get a ton of rushes.
It's just not there. Running backs weak. That's why we go. We want these top running backs because we like Jordan Howard a lot. But yeah, there is question marks. In a normal year, we might be like, put him down a little bit. Even more, he's 11th, 12th guy.
Right.
No, they're just not. The guys aren't there. You don't have. You've lost to number one in Adrian Peterson from last year. You've lost to number one in Jamal Charles from last year. Like those kind of guys would have been above these guys, and we don't have those anymore. And no one replaced him to be the top guy. So it's just not. It's just a year where it's not as good here. Even last year, like an Eddie Lacy would have been ahead of these actually probably in some drafts. Like he was up there yet.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think about that. You've lost a lot of number one guys and not right now have a sure thing to replace them. So a guy like Howard is maybe he is higher than you on a normal year you would think. Because you would like Jordan Howard as your number two back. Number one you're okay, but you really want him as your number two. But it's just
if you could get number two, that'd be amazing. But that's not going to happen more than likely.
That's why running back's so weak. It just is. Number 8, DeMarco Murray. My 7th, your 9th. I actually put him. He's been all over the board for me. I had him 6th when we did initial ranks months ago. Dropped him to 9th. Put him back up to 7th.
I have no problem with this guy. He just has more things around him that can derail his production.
It's Derrick Henry. It's like, are they really how much do they want to use Derrick Henry? And we don't know that, and we're not going to know that. And so if he gets a similar workload to last year, he's going to be great. And that's kind of how I have it ranked right now. But this is early. This is preseason's just starting. Training camp's just starting. We'll see how Derrick Henry really looks. If Derrick Henry just looks amazing in preseason, you might want to drop Murray slightly, a couple spots.
Yeah.
Just because if he looks great, I feel like they'll use him a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's not going to take the job from Murray unless Murray gets hurt. I believe. I just don't see Murray falling off a cliff talent-wise. It's just how many carries. He had a lot of carries under his belt, and it's just Derrick Henry can be a great running back. So
yep, and I've said it many of times, but I mean, to your point, I mean, it's so true. If some player is very good, they're not going to just keep him on the bench. They're going to play him, and same thing. If you have DeMarco Murray, he's 29 right now, right? So he's about to be 30 this year. Not that you're worried about him falling off completely, but if you can keep him healthy by using, Henry more. Why wouldn't you do that? It'd be better, especially if you make the playoffs. It'd be better for, next year for Murray as well.
Yeah.
I think it benefits the whole team as a football team. So I think it just makes more sense. That being said, Murray is way too good to think that Henry is going to take a large enough workload away from him in order to really make him plummet, because he was a top 10 guy last year. I have no reason to think he won't be a top 10 this year.
I don't either. Number 9's Jay Ajayi, who's actually both of our number 8 running back.
Yeah.
It's opportunity. He's one of the few guys who should be a sure thing back. The guys behind him aren't bad, and they have a good offensive line, so maybe partially is the offensive line. But Jay Ajayi, like different metrics, he ranks very well last year. He had those 3 200-yard games. The downfall people try to use against him is he had these other games he was terrible. If you take away his 200-yard games, he's no good. Yeah, that's true. You could if you take away 3 200-yard games, maybe he isn't as good. But think about 3 200-yard games. That's pretty amazing to get that 3 times. There's something. You're a special player if you can run in the NFL for 200 yards 3 times. That's pretty much it. Yes, other games probably didn't do as well. How much of that has to do with the fact that Ryan Tannehill is not a great NFL quarterback? You don't have to worry about him as much. So that's going to be it. If Tannehill can't do anything and Devontae Parker doesn't step up and, all these other things happen, maybe they can stack the box against Ajayi. And it could not be pretty. He's getting you 8 points a game, and he's Lamar Miller from last year, maybe. Something like that. So I don't know. That's kind of what I could see happening. I have a feeling that offense is going to be a little bit better. And in turn, Ajayi will be okay. That's pretty much why. Normally, I think another player in a normal year, you probably don't want him as your number 1 running back. You don't.
He comes with more question marks.
He does.
And Ajayi might be the guy in the top 10 that's going to be the most exciting to watch, because I think he has potential to really leapfrog some people, and he also has the potential to really fall. So hence he comes with a larger risk factor, which I tend to stay away from in my number 1 back situation. But I mean, you can't deny how talented the guy is, and when he showed up last year, he was incredible. So that's risk reward. That's what it comes down to, Ajayi. So depending on how you want to build your team, if you can weather that, stomach it, he'd be a lot of fun to have on your team.
Yeah, and that he is on my team in our main league we're in, which people don't like us talking about leagues maybe, but you know what? Hey, we'll talk about our league a little bit. It gives you context maybe on our league, and Ajayi is my keeper, one of my keepers. But I don't want him as my number one running back. And that's how I'm going to tell you people. Like, yes, for me, he's on my team, but I don't trust him as my number one yet. But he should be. That's what he is. He is a number one, but that's how weak running back is. So it's just, you get two good running backs. I keep telling people this. You just have to do it. Number 10 is actually a tie. And our tiebreaker that we use can't be used because basically what we do, we put our ranks together to let people know. It's Leonard Fournette and Todd Gurley. I have Fournette 11, you have him 10. I have Gurley 10, you have Gurley 11. What we do usually, if they tie, so they have their score, whoever has the lowest rank is the guy we'll put ahead, but these two tie. Mm-hmm. So they're both number 10. There's no tiebreaker here. I could have just put my guy number 1. You would have never.
I would have never known.
Not until I said it and thought about it. But it's Fournette and Gurley, so we can just talk about them together.
Yeah.
Fournette, he's just a great These two are like the best running back prospects. 2 of the 3 best running back prospects. I can't talk today. 2 of the 3 best running back prospects in the last 3 years, with Zeke being the other, obviously. And these 2 are great. Gurley was amazing his rookie year when he played. He plays on a terrible team, and he just couldn't make it work. That's why I think I thought he was a better running back than Jordan Howard, but Jordan Howard made it work on a terrible team. Gurley couldn't quite do it. What's that mean? I don't know. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for one more year. If he can't do it this year, maybe it is. Maybe there's something there. It's just not. We thought Trent Richardson was great rookie year, his first year. He had an amazing year, and then he just fell off. So we've seen it before. And Trent Richardson was a number 3 pick. We all thought he had all the talent in the world to do it. I don't think that's Gurley, but I started to make that comparison last year, the Trent Richardson one, and as kind of a joke at first. And if you go a couple weeks into this year and it's still happening, I think it might be more legitimate than you think. I don't believe that, but that's the Gurley thing. It's kind of like you're getting him there. That's the part that sucks. You have to get him as like the 10th, 11th running back, hoping he is what he was his rookie year. And if he's not, if he's your number 1, you are hurting bad. Fournette, a rookie. That's it. He's a rookie.
Yeah,
he's an amazing prospect, but he's a rookie. He's not going into a situation like Zeke did last year. He's going into the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think are improving, but
you don't know. You don't really know with that run game because they've never really had a running back. Or I shouldn't say never. Just the last year, they didn't have a running back that could really show how good that offensive line was. Well, so maybe he's going to be running into brick walls like Gurley did all last year.
Was it Brandon Albert, the tackle they had traded Miami for, just retired today?
That's right.
So
he did. I saw that.
I don't know how much they were expecting him to be. He was a little bit older, obviously retired, but they were hoping he would come in and help boost that line, but he retired, so we'll see what happens there. I still think Fournette's good enough. That's why he's up there 11 for me, 10 for you, but both of these guys are very similar. It's you banking on their actual talent and hoping they can overcome the situation and be good enough. They have number 1 potential here, like number 1 in the NFL potential here, which guys below them I don't feel like do, which we'll get into in a second. These 2 I just feel like have the potential to be a number 1 back. If you at the end of this year, if you said, okay, Leonard Fournette was the number 2 back in the NFL, Todd Gurley was number 3, I'd be like, okay, I believe it. I wouldn't believe it in the next guy, so that's just why they're there.
Yeah, and Todd Gurley, you are taking a leap of a faith, but the numbers were so bad, and they switched up some of the coaching. Supposedly, I don't know what they were talking about, more situational. I'm just hoping that they're going to put him in a better situation in order to succeed. And I think last year it was more them trying to eke out a few wins and them trying to bring Jared Goff around. I think now they realize, hey, this guy needs our attention. He can actually win us ball games. Yep. I think that's going to be it. And Todd Gurley, even as much as he struggled, they gave him a insane workload for only getting 3.2 yards a carry. Yep. And, he still got almost 900 yards and 6 touchdowns. So the biggest thing against him, I don't think he's ever going to not play, right? There's no one behind him.
Exactly.
He's never going to be benched.
Yeah.
The big thing about him is, can he overcome his team's shortcomings? And
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Really it. I mean, that's really it. I mean, there's nothing I can knock against the guy. You've seen how talented he is.
And that's the problem. Why we keep harping on get running backs early. In a 12-team league, these are running back ones. And, man, I don't want them as my number one back. I don't feel comfortable enough with it. There's nothing that makes me feel comfortable as my number one.
And if you got Todd Gurley at, 10, 11, even if he repeated last year, it wouldn't necessarily kill you like it did last year.
It's not going to kill you. These guys do have the potential to be up there, but if you get them as a number 2 back for your team, okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
So number 12 is Isaiah Crowell. He's your 12th, my 13th player.
Okay.
But that's kind of where, again, it's not as – he was under 1,000 yards last year. Everyone kind of expects that for some reason his carries are going to go up and he's going to get more yards. But I don't know if they will, but maybe they don't need to. Like, if he's just safe and he's okay in this range, I don't think they necessarily need to go up too much because I don't think they will. I don't see, I think some people are predicting like a big jump for Crowell. I don't really see the big jump happening. Maybe a slight jump, but I don't see it like this major jump happening.
Depending on what you mean by major
just
jump.
Up to 1,400 yards kind of thing. I don't see that. Maybe 1,100.
I thought you meant for carries. I was like, I think he could go up significantly in carries. I mean, if you got him another 40 carries, that's huge.
The reason I don't see it is because I don't think the Browns are that much better. They want to run him the ball. They actually would like to. I just don't feel like they'll actually be in situations where it's actually going to work out. Because I think they're improving, but I don't think this is the year where they're there yet. That's my knock on it is, even you can say everything you want about trying to get him the carries, but if you're losing these games by double digits, you just can't. Right. That's where I think the worry comes in. That's the only thing. It's nothing against Crowell. I think he's an okay NFL running back. He's not amazing. But he's not bad. He's good. He's good. Yeah. I think he's good, but he's on a bad team, and we'll just see. If the Browns are better, it changes a lot of things. He can get more carries. He'll be up there more. And if they do put Duke Johnson in different situations and don't run him very much, there isn't anybody to take carries away from Crowell. It's really about game situations for him. Is his team going to be in enough games where he gets enough carries? That's pretty much it.
And that's what it comes down to.
It really is. That's what it comes down to with Crowell. If the Browns are a little bit better, Crowell will be a little bit better. If they're not, he'll still be good enough as a running back 2 probably. But he's on that borderline.
That's what it comes to. Attempts, really. It comes down to attempts. The guys above him get a lot more attempts. Yep. If you can get him to 230 rushes, that number for TDs probably can go up to 10. From 7 to 10, he's going to have over 1,000 yards more than likely. And, last year, 4.8 yards a carry? Yep. He was very, very good on a very bad team. Yep. So you're hoping that they,
are better.
Shore up some things and they're in a closer ball games.
Number 13 this is where it gets ugly, starting to. Lamar Miller, 13. He's my 12th, your 14th. So I actually did have him ahead of Crowell, but it's mainly off of I think they have a better team and he'll have more workload. Don't love the player. I think he's just, I thought he was a better player than he has seemed to be. That's kind of what it is with Lamar Miller. Going into last year, based off his Miami tape, I thought he was good. It was a good running back, and everyone else kind of did too. And it just didn't happen. Is that the Osweiler effect, and he just made everybody around him worse? We'll get to see. But in the NFL, though, he is a second running back. He's still that. I think he's going to be okay, but I just don't know if you have the big upside with him. That's my worry. It's just kind of what you're getting with him, and if you have a stacked wide receiver group and Lamar Miller is your number 2 running back with a good running back, then you're okay. I'm fine with that. But he's nothing special. He's not exciting. I don't even like talking about him. He's just it's just a 4 yards a carry. Yeah. Just kind of.
And I know people. I do differ. I wish I could actually put him lower, and I know a lot of people like Lamar Miller. But the thing I worry about is he's never really had a giant workload. One time in Miami, he had over 200 rushes, and that was a lot for him. And then last year, he had almost 268. And he barely got over, 1,000 yards. And he really didn't even get any in the receiving game. That's the big red flag for me. A guy that's not known for, getting red zone touches. And now you're not using him in the passing game as much. And, Brock Osweiler's not there, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be calling plays differently either.
Yep.
And also, I don't know why people think things are going to change so drastically this first year. Like, yes, you don't have Osweiler, and he was really, really bad. Like, I can't state that enough. But you got to start Savage or the rookie Watson, and
Yeah, it's true.
I'm rooting for those guys. But QB is a very difficult place, role to play on a team. So I can't imagine them stepping in and just all of a sudden changing the offense completely. So this guy, I assume he probably won't get quite as many rushes. I'm hoping he gets more in the reception game. I just don't see a whole lot of upside for this.
Me too. That's
And
the thing.
last year he was 17th. I mean, I don't see him getting better than he did last year.
I think we know what Lamar Miller is at this point. He's been in the NFL long enough where team players don't usually have a big jump at this many years in. It might happen after 1 or 2, or if you move to a new team, but he already went to the new team and it just didn't happen. I think he's okay. He's just, get him as a running back too. Don't reach. I've actually seen him in some like actual bigger experts. I'm not going to, I don't need to call out anybody, but like as high as 8th.
Yeah,
Like,
people really like him. I guess I just don't
man.
understand I guess you can grab stats and kind of look at him however you want. And
Yeah.
some might say, hey, he finally got the workload. Now with Osweiler out of the way, he'll get the production. I don't see it that way. But I guess that's just a difference of opinion. Why I would actually like to have him lower. The running backs around him, that would be unfair.
Number 14 is Marshawn Lynch, my 14th, your 13th.
Why would it be unfair?
He's there just because he's on a good offense. He's not going to get a major workload from everything we've been hearing, about 200 carries, probably 200 touches, whatever. That's still good enough. That's good enough to be a running back too, and that's where he's going to be. With the thing, it's going to be touchdown dependent with him. So he also has the chance to fall off a cliff and not be any good. But that's the risk you're going to take if you're drafting Marshawn Lynch. You could be getting all those touchdowns. You could get a very good player, or you could get somebody who's just going to he might come in and just not have it. He might not be done. We don't know. It's a little bit of a risk, but there's some big upside there. It's just kind of, I'm probably avoiding him most of my leagues. That's just, I like to not take a lot of risk on my running backs. I like to be decently safe. Maybe Lynch is a safe option. I don't know. What are you thinking?
He does. He comes with more risk, right?
Yeah.
The thing I do love about him, he had a year to heal up pretty much if he had anything wrong with him, which, his final year, he seemed like he was kind of banged up. But the guy runs incredibly hard. I think he fits Oakland's offense very, very well. And exactly what you were talking about when you were saying, hey, maybe he'll only get 200 carries.
Yeah.
If he had 200 carries, I still love him at this position because you look at Latavius Murray and what he was able to do. The guy's a physical specimen, right? But I wouldn't call him the world's best running back by any means. I think Marshawn Lynch has just a knack for finding holes, getting extra yardage. And Latavius Murray ended up the 13th running back. And he had less than 200 carries. And he had 12 touchdowns running. But I don't see why those opportunities won't present themselves, to Lynch. Yeah. So I think I love him at this spot. And I know he does come with risk, don't get me wrong, because he did miss a year. I might be missing something completely with age or his physical ability. Yeah. But if everything checks out, I think he's a relatively safe play. Yeah. And I think that's where I differ from a lot of people.
I think we have him at a good spot here. This is where he should be. Some people might have him higher, and I don't like that. This is about right for him.
Yeah.
I think. Number 15 is probably going to surprise you here. Okay. Joe Mixon. He's your number 17. He's my number 17. It's just the way it works.
We just differentiate.
It's the way it works. So we're both not. It's weird how this worked out consensus wise. Joe Mixon's our consensus 15th. We actually don't have him higher than 17th. There's just a couple players we'll get to in a minute that we differ on. Those are our big differences. Yeah. And it jumps Mixon. It looks like he's going to get the opportunity there, I think, but it's still Hill's there. I mean, oh man, I don't know what to think about this.
I've been fighting this for so long, but at some point I just have to take what everyone else says into account.
Seems like,
from the NFL.
From everything we're hearing is Mixon. It seems like it's Mixon, and Hill's had his chance and he's not done it. Gio's still recovering, but it sounds like he's actually coming back quicker than expected from the ACL injury. I don't know if that affects Mixon. I think it's more of a Mixon versus Hill thing. I think Gio's kind of got into his role. Maybe this is way too high for Mixon. I mean, we both think 15's a little high.
He comes with just a ton of question marks.
Huge upside here, or big down. This is a big risk here. But this is why you take those running backs early, because you get into this situation. You got Joe Mixon here at 15. Either way, even if he's not 15, he's a running back too. And actually, I'm looking at it. I understand, even looking at our list, when we get these next couple guys here to round out a list, like, okay, yeah, he is more probably running back 1 potential than some of these guys. So I don't have a lot to say about Mixon because I haven't seen much of his college tape even. And we haven't seen preseason yet, so we don't really know. It's just kind of, we're going off NFL experts and college scout and all this kind of stuff. It's waiting to see for me on Mixon.
Yeah, and this is why I didn't want to put him up higher, because that backfield he's going to have an opportunity without a doubt. But if for some reason Hill holds on to that short yardage situational kind of stuff, I mean, the last 3 years the guys had 9, 11, and 9 touchdowns. If Mixon can get into that rotation, even if it's a timeshare around the goal line, the guy has the ability to really skyrocket. I'll give everyone that. I just don't know that yet. Especially with Gio, kind of, like you said, still coming back. Mixon's not going to just all of a sudden get the primary role. I don't see that. I think Hill's still going to be heavily incorporated, and I don't know. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, how many carries can someone get with 3 running backs going? But I get why people are excited by him. I'm just not ready to anoint him all of a sudden this amazing running back.
Yeah, but this is one of those situations we really got to wait and see. In our rankings update episode, closer to the season, he'll probably be a mover one way or the other, maybe. We'll see.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Number 16 is Carlos Hyde. My 16th, your 19th. This is another one. He'll be moving. We don't know what to do with him yet. Yeah. And he has a lot of potential to be higher than this if he actually gets the job. But there's too much chatter for me. You don't hear this. This doesn't happen. Whenever there's this much chatter about something, a player, and negatively, it usually ends up being something's right about it. I mean, it just always seems to be.
Yep.
The positive talk you can just disregard. Who cares? Some of it might be true. Most of it's not. Negative talk seems to be much more accurate, I would say. And so it worries me. But he still has all the talent there, so he's still, as of now, I'd have him this area. But again, I'm not comfortable with it, and I hope there's more clarity before most people draft about what to do. I don't know what I'm going to do in our draft this weekend about Carlos Hyde. It's going to be an interesting one. He could end up being, this is a player, though, you could end up getting great value on him, especially if you're drafting now. Everyone's kind of doesn't know what to think about him. He could slip under the radar. You get him for much cheaper in an auction or something much later. That I can see happening. So he could end up being great value, or it could be a wasted pick.
Yeah.
It's one of the two. I think it's one of the two. It's great value or a wasted pick.
Yep. And he's one of the guys that really slipped for me. I think he fell
he was
6 spots or so.
Quite a bit for you.
And the other thing that the other reason I really can hold on as much as I want, I had to drop him, not only because of the negativity that's going towards him. We all know how talented he is, and the guy's only 25 still. They're still very young. But I mean, he is kind of injury prone also. So you mix in that with the fact that, hey, maybe they're going to be cutting into his workload even when he's healthy. And that's why he's starting to fall down my rankings. But I really do. He's one of the guys I kind of root for because every time he touches the ball, he looks really, really good. He just happens to be on a bad team and in kind of a bad situation at the moment.
Yep. Number 17, we have a tie again. This is no way to break this tie. And it's actually huge differences, which is the weird thing that this worked out. It's C.J. Anderson and Eddie Lacy. C.J. Anderson you have at 15th. I have at 21. Eddie Lacy I have at 15. You have Eddie Lacy at 21. So this is one of our biggest differences here. Start out with C.J. Go alphabetical order. He hasn't been that good. He's been good at times, disappointed at times, been injured at times. So it's kind of this is his make or break year, and I'm not sure what to think. Devontae Booker being gone does, I think, help his value quite a bit. If the Jamal Charles news of 8 to 10 touches a game is legitimate, I think that means if that's legitimate news, C.J. Anderson should be the guy. And so I should increase him a little bit.
Right, and this is that you put it out. Yeah. That's my whole thing. After hearing this news, he had to go up because he's the only guy in town that's going to get the bulk of the load. And when he was healthy the 2 years before, he went from his rookie year 5.4 yards a clip, and then 4.7, 4.7, and then he went down to 4, and he only got through half a year before he got injured. So I mean, you look at that, and I just think there's so much room to grow. And if he's the only guy in town getting those carries, he has to be up there. I mean, he's going to get a large amount of rushes, especially their quarterback situation still in flux. So you're going to have to run the ball. You're going to have to figure out other ways to move it down the field. And that's why he moved up. Because before this, he kind of barely on my top 20 radar. He wasn't even on it. So I had to move him up. But because of this news, everything is kind of working his way. And it's not because I love the guy by any means. It's just situational.
No, he might move up my ranks a little bit. I hope this actually just happened. We have a little clarity. And then that does mean Jamal Charles should be a clear handcuff to him now, too. We do know that. It kind of just...
Well, we'll see. I don't know if that's
what
true.
There is news that he could not make the team. You never know. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's just kind of... I think prospects are going up for him. I really think. So Eddie Lacy's our next guy here. And, I mean...
I was going to say, go ahead and hype your man, because I know Lacy is a guy you're hitching your wagon to. If you
I mean, I just think that he is going to get the opportunity here. And I really still think he's a good running back he gets a lot of crap for his weight these last few years. He was still at 5 yards a carry last year, before he got hurt. And you didn't hear much about it. He was kind of a disappointment. But I think it was the workload. I think the Packers were just kind of, what they became, a much more just all-out passing team. And Eddie Lacy was great in his first 2 years, and then he's had some injuries, battled those since. But he's a good running back. And if he is in shape, like it seems to be, in shape, good shape for Eddie Lacy, hitting his weight goals, I think you're going to see at least a 1 year, resurgence from him. And if he gets the majority of the carries, why can't he be Marshawn Lynch from a couple of years ago? Maybe not quite that, but somewhat of that. I think Rawls will take away some of his work, but not a lot. And Procise is just a different player. I feel like though Lacy I don't like to handcuff too often, but I think Rawls might be a thing you need to get here. If you get Lacy, I almost feel like you need to get Rawls in a way to make it, right. Procise just throws a wrench in everything because they don't know what he is.
Right.
And I just feel like this could change. Lacy could change. If we hear he's not doing anything in preseason at all, if it's not there, maybe he's going to drop. As of today, I feel like he has this good potential to be up there. And I like him. I think he's been good. It's just, it's a wait and see kind of thing. I think they want him to be their number one back, and I think they're going to use him like that. And that's kind of why I have him where I do.
Yeah. And I do. It's not that I dislike him. I just think his situation is a little muddier than other guys ahead of him. But you're right. His rookie and sophomore season, they gave him a lot of rushes, and he did great with them. I mean, he was over 1,100 yards both years, and he had 11 TDs and 9. So I mean, he was on average, but he was averaging 10 TDs and say 1,150 yards, and that was when he got 280 and 240 rushes.
Yep.
So I don't see, if he goes back to at least getting 200 rushes, he's going to be good, and then hopefully you're in a better running offense too. And I think, especially watching last year, I think that Seattle could desperately want to get back to that, where they pound it out first, and then Russell Wilson can kind of make you look foolish.
But if the offensive line is no good,
it's not going to matter.
All right, number 19 here, Christian McCaffrey, and this is our biggest difference. I have him 23, you have him 16. And the reason it's a rookie, so we don't know. There's been good talk about him. We talked about that in the news and before the episode. Jonathan Stewart is praising McCaffrey. Who knows? He's going to look good in practice drills, of course. He's a good player. It's just going to be, for me, I don't know what kind of workload he's going to get, how they're going to use him exactly. If Jonathan Stewart was gone, I'm jumping him up. I just don't know. I think he's better than Jonathan Stewart at this point. Obviously, I really do. But how much are they still going to use Stewart? Maybe they'll get to the point where Stewart's just kind of done and they realize, we just got to use McCaffrey. He's that dynamic. Put him in a million different situations. He'll increase my rank. It's just, I actually have him, let's see here. We won't get into this guy today, but McCaffrey's actually my, fourth rookie running back on my list. You're second, yeah.
Really? Okay, well, I know who, obviously you have him over.
I have
Delvin Cook.
I have Cook is the next one I have.
Really?
Yeah. We'll get into Cook Thursday.
Yeah, we'll get into him.
But
that's interesting.
I actually have Cook ahead of him. But it's just more of I don't 100% know how he's going to be used. This is another one. Preseason could change my mind quite a bit. If I see how they're using him, it just looks like they're going to put him all over the field and get him the ball all kinds of ways. he could be definitely move up. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it is. It's hard to talk about rookies when you haven't seen anything yet. We're not in training camp preseason yet.
I just think he's in a role where I think they could use him. I'm going strictly off of what the team could use.
Yeah.
And he does. He's a wonderful pass catcher, so I think he's going to lock down those third down reps, and then I think he can easily eat into Stewart, and Stewart gets hurt a lot. And that's kind of where it comes in as well. So I think he's going to get plenty of work as long as he stays upright. And, just on sheer work volume alone, I don't see why he would move back too much farther. But I totally understand anyone's hesitation because it really is as bad as they were last year. You're taking somewhat a leap of faith on this guy, which I am.
Yep. All right. One last player to round out our top 20. Number 20, Ty Montgomery. Makes our list. He's my 22nd player, your 18th player. There's good news about him coming out. It sounds like he's going to get the majority of the work. It's just, are they going to give him everything? Is he going to get the goal line work? I don't think so. But he's coming into camp. He's put on some weight, and he looks like a running back these days, except for his number. Just change his stupid number, man. It throws me off. But I think he's going to be good. I've been really warming up to Ty Montgomery here and moving him up, and you actually moving him up further than I did. And if he's the main guy and he's the pretty much every down, because if he gets the first and second down work, which I think he's going to, he's the third down for sure. I mean, why is he's not going to get the amount of carries another guy will, but he's going to get catches to make up for it.
Right.
And we're not saying to get him this is borderline number 2 running back status. Again, we want him as our third. We really, really want him as our third. But I think he's going to be serviceable and he's going to be kind of safe in a weird way. If he plays. If he's getting this, not saying like that's the hard thing. We don't know for sure if Jamal Williams will take some work or Aaron Jones or whatever. If he is in this role like he was last year, I think he's a safe player. Again, that's just saying if he plays, he's safe. Exactly. He's not going to have many down weeks.
Exactly, and that is why he really jumped up my rankings too. Because right now I haven't heard anything where those rookies are going to take any carries away.
Haven't yet.
And then you look at his numbers, and first of all, he didn't get a whole lot of rushes last year, and it's hard to tell when they really started using him. I mean, they don't start using him until maybe week 9, really, and then even that is pretty sporadic. But when they did use him, he was very efficient. So he was 5.9 yards a carry, which is great. But he only had 77 rushes, so who knows?
You don't know.
But he also had 44 catches already coming out of that backfield for 350 yards. So I like his upside a lot. 18, even for me, is a bit aggressive. But at the same time,
running back.
Yeah, it's really ugly when you get down there and you look at him. And if they're telling me he's the number 1 guy, he's going to be in there the majority of the snaps. I gotta go with it.
One of the best, a top 3 offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
So yep. All right, that's our top 20. Got to talk about a lot of players actually there. We went
20 of them.
Went about an hour today on the show. Definitely, running backs are a lot more to talk about when you get to running backs. So. It's ugly though. There's more to talk about, but I don't like it after those top guys.
Well, wait until the next episode where we're on 21 through 40, and it gets real messy real quick.
Yep. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. We're gonna have a little mini episode, another mailbag episode, which is gonna probably become the new standard Wednesday episode until the season starts, and then we'll have a whole new schedule once we get going there. Then Thursday we'll finish up our running back ranks with 21 through 40, and maybe even list off the rest. We'll see how it goes. Probably won't do an episode of 41 through 60 because that might be a little bit of. I don't know about this guy. We'll pick and choose some players.
We'll see.
But we'll have all that, and then we'll have another episode Friday as well for you guys. But we will talk to you guys next time.